Hello out there in cryptocurrency land. Welcome back to Real Crypto, where we take the market one leg at a time while keeping the market cycle in mind. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, it is the market cycle that is in question. And that's what today's video is about. I'm going to show you a couple of things even outside of general technical analysis and a few things some of the community members have brought to my attention that I actually haven't seen as of late, at least in relation to this current chart. And I want to start with what we've been discussing here in Bitcoin over the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks, ever since we had this bottom. There's a bottom put in here, slight bottom on August 7th, just about a month ago. And I mentioned that we probably should put in a bear flag or some kind of consolidation down here. And we actually did exactly that. So bear with me, guys. So we did exactly that. We threw this bear flag, fairly well-defined bear flag, too. If you guys remember this big pop, we came up and I don't remember if I had a video out then or not. And excuse me if I don't remember the exact chronological order of my videos. I do the power hours every single day, so I talk about this stuff daily, and sometimes I don't know what I put in the public video. But we had this up thrust here, which was quite a bit of short covering. In fact, most of these up thrusts have been short covering. And right about here, let me draw this line, is where I think this bear flag ended. I think the bear flag pretty much lost its bear flaggishness. Trademarked, no one else can use that. I think it pretty much lost its bear flaggishness right on the breakout up here. And we started moving to the upside here in something that I like to call the curl. Now, members of my Power Hour will know about this. I don't know if too many people know this or not or have noticed this, but I notice this quite often, as a matter of fact. I look for this actually in my charting. And lo and behold, I see it here in Bitcoin popping out of what should be a bear flag. And we actually failed to go higher. Sorry about that. So there you go. There's a little bit of what I call the curl action, just kind of sitting on top of this bear flag, which is really interesting to me, and my brain doesn't exactly know how to handle that. Now, looking at this little curl action right here, one of our community members actually pointed out that during the 2014 market cycle, we do have two curls in the 2014 market cycle. There's one here, one right there. Don't ask me why I have green on my chart. And there's a really huge one right here, which is probably one of the most beautiful curls I've just ever seen on a chart. And what this price indication means to me, no one's really explained this to me, but this is just what I think is happening, is that this is extreme market buying. And what's happening is it's not barding up. The reason being is because when you have a big player trying to take big positions, they want to take as much position as they can, as low of a price as they can. But they want to do it in a short period of time. Like they say, okay, I think there's good value here. Other people may start seeing it over the next week or two or three or a month or whatever. So let's start buying this thing a little bit all the time. So anytime it drops, it gets higher. And then anytime they see a pause in the downward momentum, they start buying it. And then that kind of leads to these little mini parabolas. Now, obviously, this one's very exaggerated and ends in a little parabolic topping candle, which put in this large base. But, so you can see here, there is a little bit of precedence for something like this to happen in the past. And, you can see in a downward trending market such as this, you really don't get that upward action. As a matter of fact, this curl came from, I talk about this more often because we've been in a bear market, is these downward curls. You see these downward curls much more often with the exact same opposite psychological effect of people trying to exit their Bitcoin positions relatively quickly while they're not able to do so at higher prices. And so curls on the upside, curls on the downside. But in a bear market, you see the curls on the top. In a bull market, or the early stages of a bull market, you kind of see these curls on the bottom. And I really like these curls, and I talk about these quite often. And then lo and behold, we see one here in Bitcoin. What scares me a little bit about this is, number one, we haven't broken any bullish indicators. We haven't broken any major price levels. We haven't really broken anything definitively. We've broken the 50-day moving average, but whoop-de-doo, the 50 average gets broken like every 6 weeks around here. So let's there's the 50-day. So we broke the 50-day, but big whoop, it's always broken. 50 days all over the place. The 200-day moving average, however, has yet to be broken. We're also coming up to a point, we're actually at a point right now where technically we should be pausing in Bitcoin. You've heard me talk in the past few videos about these prior tops have about 15% downside movement between the tops. So each of these legs down is 15% lower than the previous high. So right there, 14.68, 14.66, whatever it is. 14.2 give or take. And then if you do that again to about 14 to 14.6%, we're right about pretty much right on top of that right now. 72.67 is 14.5. We're at 72.70. So we're right at that point where we should pause, and it would be a normal market reaction to the upside, okay? So nothing is broken here yet, and this is why it's a little bit confusing right here, because even though we have the curl, which is just one signal, we still haven't broken any other signals. There's no major bottoming volume down here. Now, granted, this is a high volume area, and if you remember the power hour, you hear me talk about high volume areas, and this is a high volume area. However, the price action is abnormal for a high volume area. So we do have high volume on the upside here. You can see these candles right there ending with that large candle. Then we have a downside movement, and while the volume candles aren't spiky, they remain elevated for an extended period of time, which is a block of distribution. This is not low volume, okay? If this was low volume like down here, then it'd be a bit of a different situation, but it's still pretty high. And then we do have some candles in here, like these two are fairly large, here's a fairly large, and a lot of these are selling. We've done analysis on these candles, and a lot of this volume in these three large candles are selling. So it's not all buying down here. And then we have this, which is a pretty big selling candle as well. So not all's hunky-dory with the volume, not all's hunky-dory with the price, but you can make the case that maybe we're starting to get out of the bear market cycle, and maybe we're starting to go into a neutral, and maybe we do go bullish into a big rally. I have no idea, but I don't know if you can put money to work in that. So I want to pull up something else that a member of the community popped up here called the NVT signal. I'm sure some of you have heard of this, some of you have not. I'm sure it's not, brand new news. February 11th is when this article was pointed out here. So there's the NVT signal, and it's actually flashing a top. It's flashing a top. Anything over 150 should be considered a top, and it's flashing a top right now. So that's another possibility for us going lower. If you view this as a valid market timing tool, which it's actually been, if you look at this, look at how fairly accurate it is. You got a top here, you got a top here. It shows the top here. It's this kind of intermediate term top, which looks like we're in one of those right now. So while we do have a couple of signals pointing us higher, we have a couple of signals pointing us lower. And I want to mention too that within this curl, let me go back to the 2 hour. It's a little bit easier to draw. We do have a rising wedge that's forming here as well, and in declining volume. So I'm going to go ahead and draw you this rising wedge. Now this is much more normal price action. And you can see right there, we have a pretty well-formed rising wedge, declining volume. Yes, we did get increased here, which is why, again, it kind of muddies the territory in terms of where we can and may go. But rising wedge nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen. So is it a curl? Is it a rising wedge coming out of a bear flag? Maybe this is just an elongated pause down here because this was so extended. It's kind of difficult to say. And usually when I have these feelings about the market lately, these have been topping areas. So there's a possibility that we came up here and this is our top. And like I showed you a little bit ago, this is pretty much where that top should be. So again, very interesting market situation. I'm not here to preach you in one direction or the other, guys. I'm here to show you pretty much what I see in the charts. And right now there's just quite a bit of confusion. And I don't want to get caught up on any point of confusion, guys. I'm not a perma-bear in Bitcoin by any stretch of the imagination. I believe that Bitcoin will come back. I believe it will come back with gusto, and I believe it will be very profitable for a lot of people. I'm just not quite exactly sure you buy it at 72.25, 72.75. That's all I'm saying right now. I don't know if that's exactly what you want to do. So we have bullish signals, we have bearish signals, we have newer signals like the NVT, which is fairly recent to Bitcoin, and we have shorts that are rallying again after a big steep sell-off. We also have bulls that are not increasing. So do with all those signals as you may, But a very mixed market, guys. It's much better, in my opinion, here to be in cash. I'm in cash here. I do have some altcoin positions. Other than those, I'm in cash. Bitcoin's just a little bit too choppy. We never did break down from here, so I never did enter a short position. I was always waiting for the market to kind of show me what it wanted to do, but it never really got going. It just kind of ended up drifting higher. So let me know what you guys think about these signals. What do you think is valid? What do you think is not valid? What do you think is complete BS that I'm talking here? Do you think I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth? I'm sure I'm going to get some comments about that, and that's okay. Let me know your thoughts down below, ladies and gentlemen. And I do want to thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate it. And guess what, guys? I'll see you next time.